Hey guys, it's DK Daniels, and I'm back with another live stream again for folks on Chasing Christmas. So, if you don't know who I am, which I guarantee most folks who are tuning in do know who I am, I'm a YA author who writes LGBTQ content, and we're doing currently a live reading of one of my books called Chasing Christmas, which is a romance adventure kind of book. And yeah, so this is the sixth night I think we've been doing this, and we are about halfway through the book already. We're making quite a quite a progress with the development. But anyway, I'm going to get on with what happened or transpired in the last chapter, and then I'll give you a quick recap of what's going to happen in the upcoming chapter. But just a quick, off the line again. If you're not on my mailing list, make sure you sign up over there, and I'm giving away 3 copies, signed copies, and if you're interested in that, just make sure you're on my mailing list. I'm doing a random lottery. The closing date is the 10th, so anybody who signs up after that, I'm not going to include in the final lottery. But anyway, on to the next part. So we'll start with the recap. So hey, hey Damon. Okay, so the boys had headed inside after a big snowball fight, and they warmed up by the radiators, and the family all got chowing down on lunch, enjoying the festivities and the food and whatnot. And Noah is realizing, oh, this is what Christmas is really about: all the family together, and you know, the general, you know, warmth that everybody is around. And then after a bit, he decides that maybe he wants to go to his friend Jack Hart's house to give him his Christmas present. And with a bit of protest from the adults, the boys finally head out into the cold Chicago suburbs while walking to Jack's house. So basically, what's coming up is while the boys are walking to Jack's house, of course, Noah is, he's kind of offended by something that says, because Lucas has quite a gruff demeanor, and it offends him when he mentions an off-topic joke, which leads to the both of the boys having a bit of a scuffle. And that is until 2 older teenage boys are walking by, and they make a remark or pass a remark while they're walking by. And this definitely does not set well with Lucas, and he basically, lets loose his mouth and cannon, and he just alters the rest of the events for the day. And that's where the progression towards the finale starts kind of spiraling. But yeah, anyway, we'll wait for a few minutes for some folks to come in, and I'll just mention a few things. I thought, I don't know whether anybody would be up for it, but I'm a big pun guy and that and everything. I like reading jokes and telling jokes and that and everything, and I thought maybe I'll crack a few puns or something while we're waiting. It's a little bit different. But yeah, anyway, I said, why not? I know it's a bit probably weird, but hey, it'll kill a few minutes for everybody. And yeah, so let's get cheesy, I suppose. So a man was assaulted with milk, cream, and butter. How dare he? Yes. I mean, come on, you can't laugh at that. It's just really punny, isn't it? Did you hear about though? Sorry, did you hear about these new reversible jackets? I'm excited to see how they turn out. Okay. My colleague can no longer attend next week's innuendo seminar, so I have to fill her slot instead. um, okay. Atheism is a non-profit organization. Um, I'm reading a horror story in Braille. Something bad is about to happen. I can feel it. Um, I bought some shoes from a drug dealer. I don't know what he laced them with, but I've been tripping all day. Um, okay. Just burned 2,000 calories. That's the last time I leave brownies in the oven while I nap. Uh, Imagine that happening. I mean, I love brownies. Yeah. Oh, that'll be just life ending, wouldn't it? Um, did you hear about the two silkworms in a race? It ended in a tie. Um, okay, let me see. Thanks for explaining the word many to me. It means a lot. Um, Let me see. Don't interrupt someone working intently on a puzzle. Chances are you'll hear some crosswords. Um, okay, one more. Let me see. This morning my alarm went off. I thought its sell by date was tomorrow. Um, okay, yeah. But yeah, I absolutely love some puns. They kind of lighten the mood. And that's why I was delighted. One of my favorite characters of all time, Ellie from The Last of Us, she also loves puns, and yeah, it's just something that made me very happy inside. But yeah. I don't know why. Today I'm just in a generally very good mood. It's like I've been laced with this euphoria kind of drug or something. But yeah, I was re-listening to an old band that I had listened to a couple of years ago called Passion Pit, and it was like reliving my teenage years with all the indie pop and the you know the electronica crap. And FYI, if you've never actually heard of them, check them out. You'll probably like them if you like general pop. It's a little bit of stuff to get people dancing, I suppose. But yeah, I was thinking as well, how many people have actually started their New Year's resolutions. I know it's early, but I'm already thinking of what I can do to better myself, because it's always good to think of, what you want to do to better yourself going forward. And I definitely know what my biggest one on especially is to lose weight, because I can definitely see it every time I'm talking here. But yeah, I definitely need to lose some of the flabby, because it is good to be healthy, of course, but hey. I'm just wondering if anybody else has any recommendations. Oh no, not recommendations, but what yous are thinking of doing for yous a new year's resolution. I know cutting some of my calorie intake is going to be, you know, pretty dull because I love food, and much like Mateus in How I Live Now, that will be sorely disappointing. But yeah. Also, I was thinking, I'm not too sure whether how this would work out, but if anybody is interested, um, maybe on occasion when I'm finished this, would you be interested if I maybe did like a review channel on other LGBT content, or films and books and whatnot, and just a general review on occasion, maybe give you some recommendations. I don't know. It wouldn't be a full-time thing, of course, like some other YouTubers who do it, like for games and films and books, but I thought it might be a little bit of an interesting thing occasionally to keep you guys going back to the channel, and you know um so that you might be interested, to hang out with me for a little bit. But yeah, so we're about 10 or so minutes in, and I'll start um the reading now in a minute. But um if you haven't taken a minute, it would really mean a lot to me if you went over to Goodreads or Amazon and rated the book. Yeah, it really does help me a lot. It doesn't take long at all. It only takes like less than a minute. And just by doing that one simple act of like a minute can forever help me as an author, reach more of an audience. You don't even have to give it like a long detailed review. Even just rating it is a big help. It helps showcase my content to new readers and make people more comfortable buying stuff going forward. Um, you know, of course, thinking long term, I need, if I was to do this long term as a writer, not just a hobby, um, I'd need to make a sustainable wage in order to, pay for, book covers and, editors and stuff, which I have been doing with folks who've been helping me forward. And I'm exceptionally grateful for all the folks who have been supporting me on Patreon over the last 2 3 years since I actually set that up. Every single penny that you have sent to me through that service has went toward book covers and that and everything. Um, like just alone, like a book cover, like what I'm interested in most times, like the cartoony ones and that and everything, they set back about 400 or 500 euros. So that's just for a book cover, like a paperback book cover. And that's not even me design. Like I designed this book cover, but it's not the best. But I do have graphic design thing, but definitely not that level of experience. I have this really awesome guy called Milos, and I think he's worth every penny that he does awesome book covers. But that's just for the book cover alone. That's nothing else. I sent away my book, as they say there, to my other editor to make sure it was polished and that and everything. And I've spent another 300 400 euros or more just editing the book. And I've often noticed, even I don't mean to be ungrateful here, but some people, of course, not everybody's going to like my content, but I think €2 is kind of justified if you're paying €2 for one of my books, and then some people read the book and then they refund it, and I've poured like €1,000 into a release. I can understand not liking it, but if you've read the entire book and then you ask for a refund, that's not exactly fair. You're theoretically stealing. So yeah. But anyway, I'll just I'm not going to go down that road. But anyway, I've had a few folks do that to me, and it's not nice. After all the effort I put in, like I've devoted a lot of hours to this, and you know, I think for the amount of effort I put in, I think it's a worthy or reasonable expense, I suppose. But anyway, I won't bore you anymore. But anyway, I'll get on to chapter 8 here. So we're on page 150. So I don't know exactly how long I'll you know get on. I'll probably only read one chapter this evening because I have a few things actually to do when I get off here this evening. But I love spending time with you guys, so I might power through it. But the next chapter is a very lengthy one, so we'll just have to see whether me and Hamish or Eggsy, whether they feel like it's bedtime yet. So we'll check at the end of the live stream and see how whether we should power through to another chapter. But anyway, so we'll delve back into the story. Reaching the frosted, crystallized stop sign at the corner of Summit Street and Lincoln Avenue, I glanced both ways to make sure no cars were coming before stepping out onto the street. In sync, the boys did the same as me, all except Ben, who rambled on animatedly, waving his hands about as an amplifier and entirely oblivious to the road we are now crossing. Surrounded by numerous red brick and wooden colonial houses, we started to slowly trail through the intersection, leaving my home territory behind. We trudged further down the sidewalk of Lincoln Avenue. After Ben stopped rambling on about YouTube Rewind, thank God, why did Lucas have to start a conversation about something so unnecessary? Elijah broke in with a soft, amused smile on his face. It is as if he has never seen anything like this before, or at the very least, ever encouraged anyone with his amount of overzealous energy. Are you guys always like this? Elijah asked. With me in the middle and Lucas on the right and Elijah to the left, I felt at home. And at the center of the discussion, the twins each sprint walk in order to keep up with us on either side of the group. Lucas glanced at me and over to Elijah. Yeah, why? Lucas asked. Oh, nothing, Elijah stammered. I just like the wittiness, Elijah added. I guess that would make Lucas more popular than me in Elijah's sense. I'll never understand how he can be just I can never understand how he can just take a random conversation and run away with it on me. That's not fair. I had dibs on Elijah first. Is that how it works now? Setting dibs on who you want to be friends with or can't be buddies with? I think it's gotten to the point that I'm getting jealous of every little thing that Lucas is starting to do. I feel bad about it. It's not my fault, or maybe it is my weakness. Thinking of a witty response, yes, witty, he said he likes witty. So I have to be sarcastic, like Lucas. If I want him to like me, I have to be like Lucas. Oh, that's what costs. That's what's causing him to approve of Lucas. It's his funny, weird, and obnoxious side. Though I'm not obnoxious. Sadly, I don't think I am anyway. Wittiness is not the only thing Lucas is full of, I jokingly joined in, with a nudge on Elijah's arm. Elijah sniggered at the joke. Save when I looked back over to Lucas, he didn't find it all that amusing. Lucas stared at me snidely, opened his mouth, and said, Yeah, screw you two, in a hearty har har manner. A moment of silence took place. The only thing remotely making itself known is the subtle crunch of the crystallized snow beneath our feet, and of course, the mumbling contortion of the two twins behind us. Cars in the yards. Cars in the yards, as we passed by, sat sleeping with a small amount of snow drenched lazily across the hood and the windshields. Just out of curiosity, in what country do you call in your country, what do you call windscreens or windshields or the hood and the bonnet? What do you call them in your country? Here we call them windscreens, and windshields is more of an American terminology. Hood and bonnet, we call it a bonnet and a boot instead of a trunk. I'm just curious, what else do you call it? Okay, anyway, and running from house to house is the power cables covered in a powdery flour, which floated down like dust with each poof of the wind. The only source of colour came from the faded blanketed homes nestled under the bleak white sky and the worn, slushed roads. Lucas peered at me and then gazed straight ahead. He seemed to be contemplating something. Lucas then pivoted behind us to see where the two younger boys were. Ben and Adam continued trailing behind, lost in their own conversation. They have always been this way. Lucas and I have somehow managed to not really care anymore. We just made sure they were still following us. If they were to disappear miraculously, I can only imagine what our mothers would say. How could you lose them? How? I think I'd even be a little disappointed if I lost them. The boys mean no harm, but those guys are annoying as hell sometimes, which can be expected from two twins. It is their mission to drive us crazy, if anything has ever been learned from motion picture history. It is that twins are always sneaky little bastards. Come, come on, keep up with us. Lucas bellowed back to the doppelgangers. Looking over my shoulder, the two of them broke eye contact with each other. They came gallivanting up to us in a jog. With Ben beside Lucas and Adam on Elijah's side, the group matured to over capacity. 3 is the perfect number. At least we could fit all on the path, though now, not so much. Instead, Adam walked on the lawns and brushed up against the walls. Ben, on the other hand, sloppily trudged on the verge of the road and the path covered in snow. Eventually, he complained about how cold his feet were getting, and we just told him to get back onto the walk in front of us, and they did. He has this peculiar kind of stance. Every time he's talking to us, he turns momentarily and walks backwards to initiate conversation. Personally, I'm more of afraid that he'll fall over a jutting incline in the path. Then, bam, he'd go falling to his inevitable broken arm or crack the side of his skull from the fall. Though, up to now, Ben hasn't fallen, for which I'm eternally grateful. If anything, my nervous watching if anything, my nervous watching younger kids doing stuff like this stresses me the fuck out. They just have they just don't have any sense of safety, but they do it and don't recollect. Ben fumbled around again for possibly the 10th time in the short distance we had walked and asked, "Are you really staying with us for the holidays?" "My mom said you're staying with us for the holidays." Continuing backwards so he could observe Elijah's reaction, he proceeded to walk back. Everyone went a little quiet, and nobody dared to say anything. It is quite evident that Elijah is trying to think of what to say. He just doesn't exactly have the words, so he settled with, "Yeah, I think so." Then silence came again. A car passed, and that roused everyone to the point that we all glanced out to the road to watch it passing. Crossing another intersection, Ben finished his little interrogation. Ben asked, "Can I ask why?" It is suited to Ben. He is, after all, how should I say, a curious child? Yeah, one of those sounds about right. Though there were no silence this time. Instead, Lucas blurted in, "His crib burnt down." God. There was no malice or any sort of bad in what Lucas had said. He just simply said it without thinking. It came out a lot harsher, maybe, than he actually realized. For fuck's sake. Can't he ever keep his mouth shut? If he can't think before he acts, can he at least hold his trap shut? Let him run his mouth anywhere else, but not when I'm around. Adam fell behind, and he bent down to tie his laces after it came loose. We all stopped to let him do it, and I looked over at Lucas. Giving him a small nudge on the side of the hip, I inquired, "What the hell was that for?" Lucas just looked at me skeptically and probably thought, "What is it I was talking about?" I have no idea why I asked. I just said it, and I didn't know all that much about it. Someone's house just burnt down, and Lucas handles the pain of such a thing like he was passing the salt at the dinner table. I didn't tell Lucas about the house incident. Maybe Mom just mentioned it to Aunt Annie, and his mom told him while he was downstairs at some point. Though the silence nor the awkward statement lasted very long because Lucas announced straight off, "Sorry," and Adam shot up from his crouched position and sprinted up beside us again. Truly, Elijah is so far the sweetest person I have ever come across. If Lucas was as humble as Elijah, I didn't think I'd know what to do. I presume Elijah is the only person I've ever met so far that is positively humble. Elijah said it's okay, as if it were no big deal that his house just burnt down, and my cousin is a stupid retard for bringing it back up when he shouldn't have. Elijah doesn't want to keep remembering what just happened. He wants to try and make the most of the Christmas holidays, or at least what's left of it. Sorry, it's ridiculous. I wish I had the patience to put up with all of Lucas's bullshit. And thank God I only get to see him once a year. I guarantee if I had him on my case all year, I would have probably tried punching him by now, regardless if he's my cousin or not. Lucas really needs to think what he says before he actually states it. I don't think he has grasped the concept of the scenario just yet. Even though I have explained it to him hundreds of times, possibly thousands, and his mom ought to have probably stated the same thing when he's not even with me a million times. Did Lucas have to say that? Now Elijah looks a little sad again. I spent all morning trying to cheer him up, and then it takes one goddamn bloody statement from Lucas to put him in a sad mood again. Okay, just calm down. No need to get out of no need for this to get out of proportion and hit the roof. It wasn't that big of a deal, but still, what can I say? Lucas is an asshole for saying even such a thing. Though, to make matters worse, he asked, "So, does that mean you don't have any clothes or anything like that? Like, seriously? Do you require a superpower to be able to understand that his house burnt down and that he has no stuff? I guarantee anyone with common sense can see it is a sore spot if it happened to them. I'm getting mad just listening to the stupid questions Lucas comes up with. He has no consideration for people's misfortunes. Does Lucas have a content filter inside his head that controls the amount of shit that comes out of his trap? Lucas never ever takes into consideration how others may be feeling. I wonder if anybody sells a device like that. Something that controls the amount of horse shit that comes out of someone's mouth before they decide to even waver their tongue to talk. Christ, Lucas, why do you always come off so harsh? I said in frustration. Lucas grew offended. That's Rich, because he's the one doing all the offending. Lucas blurted back, I'm not. I'm trying to say I'm sorry for what happened. Everyone just stared in amazement. No one spoke a word, really. Everybody knew that something was about to happen, or something is happening, though nobody has got the balls to say anything. Am I the only one that has the guts, the balls, to say something when Lucas is being a jerk or lacks empathy? Yeah, maybe his reasoning did have some common sense to it, and perhaps he is trying to be friendly. It is feasible that he's trying to get to know the kid, but does he have to phrase it like that? It's probably the most obnoxious way to phrase it, of course. The person is going to be sad and he's not going to have anything if his house burnt down. Hell, he's come to stay with us. That's just common sense. I guess that's the problem with Lucas. Nobody gives him a chance. Everybody just leaps into his wrong choice of words or decisions. They think he's cold and callous and he doesn't care about anybody other than himself. When all he really means is that he cares, but Lucas doesn't know how to show that he worries. I might as well let him off the hook, but he's such a. Ugh, I know. But could you say it a little less stupid or something the next time? I fumed. Next time, Lucas mumbled. I'm not stupid. Closing the small distance between us, Lucas gave me a forceful shove that I almost lost my balance. Stumbling backward, I put my fighting hands out and dropped Jack's present. A moment later, I hit a tree behind me in one of the yards without a boundary wall. All the boys around us didn't really intervene. For some reason, I felt sad and bitter. I'm only attempting to look out for Elijah. Standing up for him seems like the logical thing to do, but he didn't do anything. He was more in shock. The boys around us didn't intervene. I can't be going crazy. Surely someone has to see the reasoning behind my motives. I don't want to fight, but Lucas appears to want to fight. The two twins look like they are slightly intimidated. They don't want to mess with Lucas because they know that if they do, Lucas would be like a shitstorm until they get back home to New York City, or until he actually subsides and leaves in a huff. Two older lads brushed through us on the sidewalk, remembering we were in the middle of the street and that we were not the only ones out and about. I moved aside so they could pass, as did Lucas. The kids looked to be about 15 or 16, 2 or 3 years older than us, max. A blonde haired guy with a smug looking face and a slim build came through with his friend, who had a green snapback on, a hearty face, and a little faint offering of black facial hair. The kid with the blonde hair almost looks like the spitting image of Lucas. I'd bet my money on it that would, or could be the same way Lucas will look 4 years down the road, minus the smug face. Lucas could possibly compete as a double with the teenager. The only difference is that the kid has blue eyes and Lucas has green. Wrapped warm and cozy, the blond boy wore a black beanie and seemed tired. Though, from the experience and knowledge that most of the kids in my school are jackasses, especially the older ones, who always torment the younger kids for general amusement, it is inevitable that our little situation, scuff, didn't go unnoticed while the boys passed. Even though they were minding their own business and we our own, nothing exactly went down yet. Though I somehow knew that these kids would stick around to watch a fight if it were bound to happen. I'm quite confident, though, that it wouldn't get far. They brushed past the twins on the outer perimeter of our group. Overhearing the boy with the green snapback, "Check it," he teased to his friend. "Two midgets fighting." Lucas could not turn down a feud, so he decided to shout back at them, "Fuck off." It kind of scared me a little because I didn't want to upset the older boys. I just prayed they wouldn't retaliate. The boys turned around and said, "Geez, chill, Spaz," before beginning to walk off. Slowly, before the situation got any worse, though, and there was a heated exchange of words, Lucas held his comments and didn't say anything. Lucas didn't drive further in an argument because he knew that if he was to start a fight, that he would most likely be killed in the process. So Lucas chose wisely instead. Out of frustration, Lucas shoved me again. He remained quiet, but let his anger be expressed in a scream, which could only be expressed in a scream, which could only happen by letting loose a cry from within himself. Lucas didn't open his mouth; he just let it go as if he were screaming into a pillow. Deciding to shove back, I asked, "Why do you always do this?" Feeling worried that the both of us would end up in a scrape on the first day that they arrive, on the ground, pulling each other's hair and kneeing each other in the stomach over something so stupid, I decided to take my approach down a notch or two. Lucas is a fiery one. He just pushed me right on back and shouted in my face, to what was almost as if he was demanding an answer from me. Lucas possibly presumed he has that he was in complete control over the entire situation and that I should answer him. I never actually witnessed Lucas in a fight, but I guarantee he's not the person who would play fair. I guarantee Lucas would kick someone in the balls when they're not looking. Realistically, that's pretty much where every war that has been fought ends up. I guess if Lucas were on the opposing team, he'd somehow manage to win. He'd cheat because, after all, it's either you or them. Lucas has never dared actually to take a kick at me on the sly. I guess it's a mutual respect that I wouldn't do it to him if he didn't do it to me. I think everything being out in the open is better. This way, if we have a disagreement or problem, we can talk it out instead of punching the heads off one another and not talking for months. Somehow that makes better sense to me rather than not talking at all or knocking the head off each other. I don't exactly think that's how it should be handled. I don't like violence. I'd rather talk it out as much as possible before it has to turn into a fight between my cousin or just anyone. Though, of course, not everyone will listen to reason. I'll agree that the situation was getting to a boiling point. Ben shouted, "Don't fight, guys." Somehow, his voice made us back down a little bit. We remembered where we were and who we are. This situation is a little stupid even to be bickering over. Elijah then cut in, "Yeah, it's okay, dude. Chill. It's okay. I'm getting used to your style." Lucas retorted, "Style?" as if it were even more offended than what I had said, though I think Elijah means he's most likely getting used to his witty sarcasm and antics, which come as baggage when you get to know him, unfortunately. It's true what they say. You can choose your friends, but you can't pick your family. If I could trade him for Elijah, I probably would. But then again, I'd miss the poor sap. I'll agree fighting is not my most strong point. I guess reasoning and trying to work out a solution between both of us is probably my best form of reserve. I've always been one to talk it out. So, I'm going to try talk it out. I'm going to try and reason with Lucas, even if he is beyond rationalizing, because Lucas is beyond reasoning. Attempting to reason with him somewhat and stifle the moment, I said, "You always act like a dickhead when you offend someone, and when they bring it up with you, you act all shitty. And yes, that could have done it all right. I guess we could be walking onto Jack's right now, but instead, Lucas just blew up into a little tantrum. Fine, I'm going home. Screw you guys," Lucas roared. With that, he turned away from the group and started walking on back the way we came. Trudging through the snow, he lifted his legs higher and laughed. With each little stomp, one could see how angry he became, and he just left the scene. Lucas treats the situation as if I'm solely to blame. I'll never be able to get through to him. I'm just easy on him. If I were another person, I would just have given him a punch by now. Still, I don't like brutality. My decision not to use violence still stands. If I can use words to diffuse the situation before violence is needed, then I will. He's almost 14. He needs to grow a pair, if anything. Fine, run off like you always do, I shouted after him, trying to take a reasonable approach in calming down. I returned back to the guys and said, "All right, come on, guys." Glancing over at the two teenagers who stood looking at me, I marched over and plucked up Jack's present. I was trying with him. You have to give me at least that. I was attempting to calm him down, but it is so hard to calm Lucas down. When you are all riled up, the last thing you want to hear is calm down. But Lucas can expect me to just stand there taking his garbage. The twins, actually, not just the twins, but the life in the group died. I don't really have much to say at the moment. I decided to keep going. After all, I have a present to give to Jack, and I wanted to get something for Elijah. If Lucas didn't want to come along, then screw him. Who is he to spoil my evening? He's not gonna be here after the holidays, but Elijah will. If I can be a cool friend or something, maybe he will stick around. Maybe someday he'll like me that way instead. Though that dream is hopeful. Do you know what really broke my heart? Hearing Elijah say sorry. Did he just really say sorry to me? He doesn't have anything to say sorry about. To me, it's Lucas. He's the one that has done all the damage. He's the one that's acting like a stupid idiot. I still love him, but he needs to know that he can't just run his mouth like that. I'm not against hurting people. I wonder if he'd ever get the memo. Just once, I'd like him to say something that's not offending when he's in the heat of the moment. Mom always says, think before you act. I suppose you should really say that as well when it comes to saying stuff. You should really think before you say something to someone, because that could either change someone's life for a good reason, but also potentially hurt someone to the point that they feel like that their life is no longer worth living, that they'll feel shitty, just like bullying. Bullying is possibly the most common indicator of this idea. Not that I have ever been bullied. I don't think I can comprehend how it would feel to be in someone else's shoes who has been bullied. Getting back on the sidewalk, placing my parcel for Jack under my arm, I hoped and secretly wished that it wasn't broken. I'll only find out when he opens it. If the dickhead did break it, okay. I need to stop calling him a dickhead, just move on and stop bitching about it already. I gave Elijah a little nod on the shoulder to indicate that no matter what, it was okay and that I am not mad at him. Thinking of what to say, I decided just to go with it. It's not your fault, and left it at that. Feeling my feet sink in the powdery snow, a voice called out. Turning to the sound of Lucas's voice, I wasn't exactly sure what to expect. Hey, shithead, the voice called. Turning slowly, Lucas hurled a snowball at me and stepped back. I stumbled backward off the path. Following the snowball in midair, it shot down the center of Elijah, and I clobbered the and oh, sorry. It shot down the center of Elijah and I and clobbered the blonde teenager in the back of the head. The kid turned around and had this horrible looking frown upon his face. I heard Lucas announce loudly, "Oh shit." I glanced back at Lucas and then back to the boy. They didn't look impressed at all. As a matter of fact, they seemed as if they were about to pounce on us, if anything. Ben glanced from me to Elijah and then back to the big kids. Now what? Ben gravelly said. Elijah shifted his attention to me. Knowingly, I looked at him with ever increasing tension. My heart began to throb harder in my chest. Then, out of nowhere, Elijah belted out at the top of his lungs, "Run." Okay, so I'll just take a little break. How's folks going? Are you still with me? How's your day going? But yeah, things are starting to really heat up in the story, and we're starting to get into the bit of the action part of it. As I said, though, I probably won't harper on too much longer about. Probably won't read another chapter. This tonight's thing will probably be a little bit shorter, but yeah. Are you looking forward to the action in the story? Um, do you think Lucas is, the sort of person to blame for that whole situation, or do you think maybe he was a bit harsh, or maybe he wasn't? What would you have done? I probably would think that he was a bit harsh about what was coming out, but then again, as I said, I don't think everybody really, kind of gives Lucas the benefit of the doubt, you know what I mean, because he's always so harsh about everything. But I guess that's just the way everybody takes up Lucas. But yeah, um, I think it's a quiet evening. There's what, like two, one or two people, I think. But yeah, so I guess I gotta send out an email or something like that so I can get more people to show up again. I think I need to remind a few more folks. But yeah, today you always find my links and that and everything on my link tree and whatnot, or my website. I did a lot of updating on my link tree. It's a long time since I did it, but I'm really happy that all the stuff is there, and it's less cluttered now. So the more important things that have the big links, you can finally see. So it shouldn't be as difficult to source the information that you are looking for. So I'm happy about that. But yeah, I think I'll probably wrap it up here. I won't go into another chapter because there's a good few, but this has the ensuing chase in the next scene, and yeah, I think it's one of my favorite scenes in the book, except for the mall scene where they're running, and then of course the ending scene. I don't know why. I just like when people get kick ass kind of thing. It's kind of fun. I think that's one of the reasons why I've decided to kind of go over into a little bit more of not just solely romance. When I started off, I was writing nothing but romance, but now I'm trying to get a bit of adventure and a bit of crime, because I've often found that the LGBTYA bracket is just it's just most of it is solely just drama and romance where everybody is just coming out, and it's kind of the same thing over and over. People are either coming out or people are miserable, and then they're coming out, or something terrible happens and then they have to slightly overcome it. And I wanted to, introduce something a little bit more fun, like, you know kids running for their lives or something like that, or in this case, the kids involved in the crime moment. And with the choose your own adventure stories, where folks could have a little bit of fun with a kind of like a game book, going back like to the 1980s or 90s. Sometimes I kind of wish that I was in like the 80s or the 90s, you know what I mean, when things were still kind of new, because, you'd get to experience all like these little game books, like, the choose your own adventure ones and that and everything. That I guarantee that would have been so cool back in its day. Yeah, but anyway, I'll probably call it here. Um, Thanks to everyone who turned up. I know it's a short one, and I'm sorry if you're disappointed, but I really am thankful if you turned up. And if you're rewatching this in, you know, after the live stream event has ended, it's good to see you too. But yeah, don't forget, if you can, please rate Chasing Christmas on Goodreads or Amazon, and Google Play, or wherever it is you get this stuff. And don't forget the mailing list. It's probably the best. Hey, Terrence. It's probably the best thing in order for people to ensure that they get updates from me, because sometimes on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is, if you're following me there, when I post a comment, it might just get muddled out with everything else. And especially with the way Facebook is gone, you have to pay for additional advertising to reach pretty much all of your own followers. I mean, I think it's ridiculous in that sense, but that's just Facebook. They want extra money for everything. But you're pre-recording electro crap music and eating glue. Don't forget the saying, the camera adds to. Does it? I don't know whether 10 pounds or 10 elves. Yeah. I guess that's something I didn't know. You can eat low cal foods, donut holes with no calories or holes. Yeah, when I was like 18, I used to be, in theoretical sense, a gym baby. I'm not that old. I'm only, nearly, I'm nearly 26, 25. Let's just say 25. But I used to be like a gym baby, I guess you could call me. And well, I wasn't ripped or anything like that, but I was fairly skinny, and that and everything. And I've done the whole dieting thing, and I never liked it. I was more or less just watching what I ate, and I think I need to just take that active approach again, watching what I'm eating, and trying to get out there and get more active. I think that's one of the problems because I'm sitting for a good proportion of my day, and when I'm writing, it's not really of a physical exercise, and that's what's kind of needed. But in Ireland, when it's once it's not June, July, or August, the rest of the year is kind of shitty. It's just it's all overcast, hazy, rain, and just rain. And our summers are just you have rain and then you have warm rain, even in summer. So that's literally our entire year. You either have the cold rain all year round, or you have warm rain in the summer, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, anyway, it was nice to see you, Terence, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of the story as you catch up or whatnot. I'm not too sure whether you've caught up or whatnot. But yeah, I'm curious to hear if what user New Year's resolutions is. Um, COVID kilos. That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, I think we did. Well, I did. Yeah, definitely in that retrospect. Um, and it's very difficult because I love food. But no, it's definitely good to get healthy. Looking back at like pictures from like 3 or 4 years ago, about 3 years ago, I look totally different. Like, you know, most of my profile pictures and that and everything. Um, Most of my pictures and everything that you see on my profiles and that and everything is of like about 3 years ago or so, and I looked so much healthier and I didn't have any really excess weight. Food is love, food is life, and the rain has gotten quite cold here. Yes, yeah, the rain has gotten quite cold, and with that statement, you just reminded me of Shrek is love and Shrek. Yes, that just disturbed me in a whole other moment. Remember that meme, Shrek is love, Shrek is life thing, or whatever it's yeah. But anyway, I used to be into the memes. Don't get me wrong. We've also come across quite a few things in Chasing Christmas that no longer exist. It's just funny. Like we were talking about Vine. I think I mentioned Vine in the book in an earlier chapter, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's gone." And then Musically came along, and that's gone. And now we have TikTok, and I wonder how much longer that's going to be around before it's gone, and another thing takes its place. But yeah, it's just insane how progressive and how the whole world of social media and that is so quickly evolving, and everything is just changing rapidly. But yeah, but anyway, um yeah, so this has been great, guys. I'm gonna get off, and I'll probably try and relax for the evening. I've Before I got on here, I sat down with my mother for a little bit, and I was watching the movie Breakthrough, which I'm not too sure if anybody's ever seen it. You have the actor Marcel Ruse in it, from One Day at a Time, which is a great TV series. I love that TV series. But it's a Christian film, a feel good, one of those kind of feel good film. Now, I am definitely not a religious person, and no disrespect to anybody, you know what I mean, who believes your faith is your faith and whatever, But yeah, I'm definitely an atheist. But the film was actually a decent film, it reminded me of, in that sense, when me and my boyfriend we went camping um, in Southern Ireland, down in Wexford and Waterford, and we were between mountains. And of course, the signal for radio stations couldn't get through over the mountain ranges, and we only had two channels that could. One was an English channel from across the sea, which kept intermittently going in and out and in and out and in and out, um, and that was annoying because it was the only other half decent channel, and the other one was a channel called Spirit FM, and it played religious songs and that and everything. But we actually spent the entire, like, nearly a week and a half to 10 days listening to this radio station, and uh, they actually played decent music. They were obviously trying to appeal to a younger audience, but the music that she actually played wasn't actually half that bad. Whenever I used to think about it, I used to always think about, like religious nuts. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. Or you're preaching, all that kind of crap. But yeah, they actually had a good selection of music lineup, and it wasn't over the top where they're pushing the notions or the agendas on you. But we end up stopping at this campsite, and all of these born again Christians, I think it was, they all stopped off at the campsite, and there was loads of them, and they were up at, like, 8 o'clock every morning singing with a guitar, and it was like, oh, what sweet hell is this? There you go, singing at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and but yeah, that's just funny. But on the back of all the cars, they had like the Spirit FM, and it's like, I know why they come here, because it's the only channel they can get. But yeah, that's just one of the little stories that me and my boyfriend have from traveling. We have a couple of funny stories from traveling. I definitely should probably put a couple more in my stories. I actually don't put a lot of our travel moments in stories, but I guarantee some of them would make for some funny moments in some of my novels. And yeah, I should probably do it a little bit more often. Like, imagine our first date in a story, where my boyfriend nearly kills me with a bowling ball. I guarantee that would, make it funny, wouldn't it? In a good rom-com kind of comedy. But yeah, my boyfriend next trip might, watch out, your next trip might feature St. Patrick's Revenge snakes on a plane. Yeah, he'd be there with the staff. Yeah, banishing the snakes from the plane. Um, but yeah, no, my boyfriend nearly killed me with a bowling ball. The first time I met him, we went on a date, and I was standing slightly behind him, slightly off to the left, I think it was, and he went to throw the ball, and he lost the grip of the ball when he went back, and the ball. I just remember the ball flying past me, and it was like this space amount of space from my head, and next thing I heard was the bum of it hitting the floor, and everybody in the bowling alley was, because it was quite quiet, and I think it was like a midweek or something like that. Everybody in the bowling alley just looked, and he was mortified. But now he's probably going to be mortified now that I've just broadcasted this to the whole world. But yeah, um, yeah, we do have some funny ones. But yeah, maybe my next trip will feature St. Patrick's Revenge and the snakes on the plane. I guess we got to see it. But anyway, so I guess I'll leave it there, guys. It's been nice. I hope you enjoyed the live stream event. I'll love yous and leave yous, and I hope you tune in again tomorrow. But yeah, if you haven't got sick of me yet, um, don't be afraid to show up again. I won't bite, I promise. And if you're still not tired of my rambling, don't forget to sign up to my mailing list. But anyway, I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you guys later, and I'll see you tomorrow. All right, bye bye.